Here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. The
Doing
deadline.
The deadline.
The deadline.
I am live from, what the locals call the Big Easy. And I don't know if you know that. That's what the locals call it. I've been down here long enough, few days, where they can't tell the difference between me and a normal New Orleans person. So I'm just right. It's the Big Easy,
I can see it.
Yeah.
I love being a local.
Yep. I'm a local here. I went to see my wife and I, when we came to New Orleans, Amos told us you have to see the Preservation Hall Jazz Band. We did it. It was awesome. I would say that and Red Rocks are the coolest music experiences of my life. And earlier today we saw it again. And it is one of just unreal. If you ever go to New Orleans, Preservation Hall Jazz Band, you got to see it.
Is that like a dark hall with a live brass band?
So it's a live brass band, and it's like literally a small wood room. Maybe it holds 50 or 60 people with wood benches, no amplification, like no speakers, no anything. It's just them in a room and you. It's pretty wild. It's pretty awesome.
I saw a brass band when I was in New Orleans 2 years ago, but I'm not sure if it was there.
Really there's a lot of jazz.
Really good live music. The
first night we were here, Sunday night, we found the only quiet jazz bar on Bourbon Street, and I proceeded to argue loudly with Elliot Shore-Parks about Jalen Hurts in the back of the bar for 45 minutes. So, this is different doing it this way without my two screens and my
finally
good mic.
One of the regulars.
Yeah, normie.
Should wear my old headset.
Yeah, headset mic.
You should be in that.
I should use your old phone.
That'd be good.
All right, you hear me good? Everything's good, right?
Yeah. Yes,
all
it's
right. Fine. Hold on. Okay. Here it goes. The Rice to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by Draftkings Sportsbook. Sign up for Draftkings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. I'm gonna have to go get my phone for to talk about the odds because I don't have my phone with me. It's over there. Also brought to you by Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process at 302-864-8643. Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours with the Process Pup patches by going to bigbarker.com and use code FREEPATCHES at checkout. You just have to search for the patches. If you just type in patches, that's the only thing that comes up. Put them in your cart. Use the code FREEPATCHES at checkout. And you got them. And then send us we'll get to that later. And Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter with Zoe. Subscribe at rightstoRickySanchez.com/newsletter. On the show today, a big day. Joel Embiid returns, triple-double, win over the Mavericks. But also, Caleb Martin gone, which Mike is shocked by based on our last podcast.
Yeah.
KJ Martin is soon to be gone. Also, Paul George in rumors per Keith Pompey. Also, Luka Doncic traded to the Lakers. What are we talking about?
The last podcast to comment on that.
Yep, but we're still going to comment on it because this is our podcast. It's the most meaningful one. And De'Aaron Fox and Zach LaVine getting dealt as well. What? A trade deadline. It's not even the trade deadline yet.
Not even close.
Yep. Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka. Boy, let me tell you, you got the big game on Sunday. You got to stock the house. You're going to have chips. You're going to have wings. You're going to have pizza. What the fuck ever. But for the drinks, you're going to have your beer. You're going to have your hard alcohol, whatever. But you got to have Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka if this is a big game party for, our team, Philly, whatever. Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka. Surfside Iced Tea Lemonade and Vodka. Surfside Lemonade and Vodka. Raspberry tea and vodka, green tea and vodka, so many different varieties, all of them 100 calories, all of them 3 grams of sugar, all of them perfectly lightly sweet. It is the best one you can drink, and none of them have carbonation because iced tea should not have bubbles. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I am Spike Eskin on location along with a guy who is both shocked and thrilled because of the Sixers win tonight. That is one Mike Levin.
It's a lot to get
let
to.
us go. They'll never let us go.
Yeah, there's a lot to get to. There really is a lot. We have to talk about the game. We should probably start with the trade. I would say.
Wow, you're making an executive decision. Start with.
I think
trade.
we start with the trade. This is the first trade of the season. There's gonna be games. There's gonna be a whole bunch of games left the rest of the year. We start with the trade. So the trade is Caleb Martin, who they had just signed to a below market deal this summer when the market kind of dissolved for him.
Yep.
To the Dallas Mavericks, who've been active lately, for Quentin Grimes, who is a restricted free agent, and the Sixers' own second-round pick in this year's draft. They've traded into the draft. Thank you so much. Needed that. Desperately needed it. And the pick that they traded back was the pick that they sent out in the
George Hill trade.
George Hill trade.
Mike, I was not familiar with your game. I thought Quentin Grimes was an unrestricted free agent, but he is a restricted free agent.
Yes, restricted. Very, very important. So he was drafted. Yeah. So let me just do some Quentin Grimes stuff. So he was a huge. I've talked about him on the podcast before because I'm intrigued by him. I have been for quite a while.
Well, when he was on the Knicks, he never missed a three against us. That is my remembrance.
Yeah, and he sort of handed that down to Deuce McBride.
Yep.
Grimes was a really big recruit going to Kansas. His first year at Kansas, he played very soft, very tentative, indecisive. Shot wasn't going in, wasn't really playing defense. Just kind of looked like kind of a random Johnny Davis-y type of guy. He transfers to Houston, plays 2 years under Kelvin Sampson, and becomes like an absolute dog. He, as a junior, gets taken 25th in the 2021 draft, which is 3 spots before Jaden Springer. He is still just 24 years old, which is 5 years younger than Caleb Martin. I think that matters significantly in a year where the Sixers are clearly not going to win the championship. At least they are, we'll get to the thoughts about it. But just the Quentin Grimes of it, he is 6'5". He's a classic two guard. If Caleb Martin was sort of like you squint and you can be like Josh Hart kind of, just for like archetypes, then Quentin Grimes is more like a KCP kind of, like younger, obviously. KCP was much more athletic when he was young. But like sturdy, 6'5" movement shooter, beautiful form, great lift, shoots it high, competes on defense, good at the point of attack, not as many deflections, steals, blocks, that kind of thing as Caleb would get, but a positive defensive presence. So you can watch the tape and he competes, he tries, he generally knows where to be. This year he's added a lot more handle and vision to his game. Career high assist percentage in Dallas. Got more to his mid-range a lot. Really good off a pull-up. Elevates really, really nicely, and attacks a closeout real confidently. Doesn't finish around the rim that much, but just a really good jump shooter from all areas of the court. And importantly, as we know, on volume. So he's a career 38% three-point shooter, but on 7.5 attempts per 36. Whereas Caleb, by the way,
more than, just for context, Eric Gordon was at like 6.9% per 36, 6.9 attempts per 36. So 7, that's a lot of attempts. Just for perspective.
That's a lot. Caleb was around 4 attempts per 36, and even fewer. It's his career for the last 4 years or so. And even fewer in his time with the Sixers because of the shoulder weirdness. Another way to say it is 40% of Caleb Martin's shots were threes, 68% of Quentin Grimes' shots were threes. I think I was texting with Sixers Adam about this a couple weeks ago because there was on SB Nation, there was like a one player from each team that they might trade article that was sort of like surveyed around SB Nation for all the local blogs, and Quentin Grimes was on there for Dallas, courtesy of Mavs Moneyball, and so it just seemed like they weren't going to sign him because of the apron stuff, and so if they're going to move him, then someone could benefit from that. So especially once they traded for Max Christie in the Luka deal, like a really similar kind of player. Max Christie had a great game tonight, by the way. And so it seemed like they would be moving him. I didn't expect Caleb Martin to be moved because they signed him to such a below market deal for 4 years, and he really is the perfect kind of playoff experience dog, destroys Boston, like heat culture here kind of thing. So I was surprised that I wasn't expecting him to go.
By the way, all of the non-big three guys, he was the guy that you least expected to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's also why he was valuable to someone else, right? The contract that he's signed to throughout the rest of his prime, he's 29 now, signed to a contract for 3 additional years after this one, makes him appealing to Dallas, who needs more defensive wings after the trade they just made, and we'll talk about that a little bit, I guess. Yeah. So it's interesting. They saved $4 million this year. We'll talk about ducking the tax later.
Yeah.
But Quentin Grimes to me is like the perfect kind of player with a Tyrese Maxey, with a Jared McCain. That's a really nice guard rotation. And I think that, and I'll let you talk because I've been talking for a while, but okay. I think that how good Paul George has been on defense, how good Oubre has been on defense, and seems like a possibility to stay for a long time. Oubre also an inconsistent 3-point shooter, the way that Caleb Martin is. How good Justin Edwards has become as a wing type that is not going to handle the ball that much and isn't that fast with the ball, but is able to throw a body at him. And even though he's been a quick shooter now, he's still not like an elite off movement shooter. And I would even add Yabusele as like a one in the wing rotation, in addition to his capacity as a backup center sometimes, as a guy who is like has been a great shooter this year, but also you kind of can't really count on him being that good as a shooter going forward. So I look at those guys that figure to be here for some time, and I go, I see why Caleb Martin became expendable, especially with like how funky his jumper looked this season, how weird his shoulder thing. Now he's been out for a while. There's a chance that like he's just not healthy again in the way that he had been previously. And to get off of a guy that had shooting questions, had some health questions, and was 5 years older, for a chance for a guy that is a way better shooter, also a strong defender. Grimes has been the better player this year, so to come up with the better player, the younger player, and the second round pick in this trade, I think it's a really nice bit of business, assuming that they sign Quentin Grimes this offseason and extend him so he's here for a long time. If he ends up walking, I think I would have to reconfigure my feelings on the trade, but as is, I feel really, really good about it, which is surprising because I was not expected to trade Caleb. I didn't want to trade Caleb, but I feel good about it the way it looks now.
Now, it's fair to mention that 39% he's shooting this year is a bit of an outlier compared to the other years. I think he's been, 33, 34% from three in the other years that Grimes has played. I think...
I mean, he's career 37.6.
Okay.
So
right,
39.8 this year is not like crazy.
Right. Sure. Look, the way they're approaching this deadline is, I said it to some guys at work. It's like a soft sell deadline in that I don't think they want to punt on the rest of the season. I think they want to let the rest of the season play out as it is. Yeah. They're not going in on the rest of the season, but they're also saying to themselves, the reality of the rest of the season is that a true competitor, a true run is probably unlikely. So if we can do things that make next year easier and make the future a little bit easier, we're going to do that. And I think that's what they're doing. So that,
which is the right thing to do.
I agree it's the right thing to do. And just to go back, letting go of Caleb Martin, it's hard to make a judgment on Caleb Martin for me from this year. From the beginning of the year, I was like, what is this? And he had a few games where it was good, but it was very hard to make a judgment on Caleb Martin. And given that context, there's a receipt up there. I'm in a hotel.
Your confetti game just happened.
Yeah. I'm in a hotel. But the rest of the year, Caleb Martin's barely even played this year. So this is to me, Grimes is going to play. So for the rest of the year, this is not a negative for the rest of the year. I just think, I think getting under the tax first from a not paying the tax, not being a repeater is good for the organization, not great for us. We've joked about that before.
Still more to go on that, but yeah.
Still more to go on that. There are other advantages, and that gets back to Yabusele. And if they end up not trading Yabusele, if you ask me moving forward, would you rather have Yabusele and Quentin Grimes or Caleb Martin? I would take Yabusele and Quentin Grimes.
Indisputable. Yeah.
Indisputable. So I think it is, and they're eventually going to get rid of KJ Martin, and we will talk about, that is strictly a tax move. But I think the right way to play this year is not to, and I've been in the middle, by the way, on the draft pick versus play the year out. I think just sort of let the year be what it is, and because they've probably got too many good players, being Maxey, George, and Embiid are probably going to play again, are going to continue to play the rest of the year. They have too many good players to get ourselves in a position where we feel good about getting the draft pick, and they have not enough good players to feel like actually making a run. So just let this year go. Let those three guys play together as much as they can, and then set yourself up from a draft pick and from a financial sense for the rest of whatever this run is, I think is the right move. So I was surprised they traded Caleb Martin. I wasn't as surprised as you were, but I was surprised. And I don't think it makes them any worse the rest of the year, given what their guard rotation has looked like. And final thing I would say is going back to the beginning of this season, when it looked like the starting lineup was to be Maxey, Oubre, Martin, George, and Embiid. The reason that I kept saying that I thought that Eric Gordon would start at some point is because the Oubre Martin thing, neither of them is a real 3-point shooter. They both can shoot threes, but neither of them is a real 3-point shooter. And if Grimes can be a real 3-point shooter, that is a lot more legitimate in a starting lineup with the Philadelphia 76ers than Martin.
He is. And it's just a matter of like, look, the percentages are going to be what they are, but like Oubre and Caleb are guys that you kind of have to like, you have to get out and contest, but you don't have to fly at.
Yes.
If they're shooting a three. Grimes is a guy you have to fly at. Yep. And they will defend him like that. That's really ultimately what it matters. As far as like buying or selling, I think I'm a pretty binary guy a lot of the time. And so this season was bad. So I want to sell to get something out of it. And so this is sort of if they were going to sell, if they were going to buy, it would be like, we have to do it with an eye towards also helping us in the future. I think the idea of trading a bunch of stuff for this year, I think would have been just this year, I think would have been insane considering what the situation has been. And I understand how it would be difficult from a Maxey Embiid PG perspective to trade Yabusele, to trade Oubre, to just be like, hey, Ricky Council is now playing 38 minutes a night. Although Ricky's been good. We're going to talk about it. And just go like, this season truly doesn't matter around these three guys who are like, actually, when they're healthy, they are playing, and like, we should do right by them. So I think this is like kind of the perfect level of like I'm very, very happy to get the 37th pick back. That is huge. I needed it. I desperately needed it. And the Sixers are going to need it because I think of what they're going to do. They're going to need more guys on rookie minimums to fill out the roster because they're going to be up against it money-wise once they sign all the people they want to sign. And I feel like ultimately this helps us more in the future. Now that we have more information, Edwards being a player, Yabusele being someone they want to keep around, Oubre loving it here and maybe wanting to be someone that they sign long-term. I think the kind of player Quentin Grimes is, if you can sign him to a to a deal that is fair for both sides. And usually with restricted free agency, you can. And to me, that's in like the $8 to $11 million a year thing. We'll see how many years. Then I feel really, really good about the starting lineup of this team.
The Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook.
Yes, it is.
Oh, brother. So Sunday, Super Bowl 59. Get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59. I am doing the podcast from the Big Easy. That's what the locals call it.
Yeah, babe.
In New Orleans. Now, it's a real Super Bowl trip in that I'm here till Thursday and I leave Thursday night so I can do a show at Chickies and Pete's on Friday. That's the most local radio thing I ever said in my whole life. But Here it is. You can feel the vibe. Feel the vibe, Mike? So the line has not moved at all. It's the line at DraftKings. Chiefs minus 1.5. Over under down to 48.5. I think it opened up at 49.5. Looking at first touchdown score, Saquon's at plus 450. Jalen's at plus 650. Saquon anytime TD score minus 195. 2 TDs or more plus 285. Mike, what are you thinking? How's this game going to go? What are you laying money on, brother? Well, you're in California. You can't lay money on anything.
I can't. But I just want them to get Jalen into a rhythm of quick passes. Like, get rid of the ball, get Goddard out in space, like make them have to think about it. All of a sudden Jalen's running, and then you open up a deep threat like the AJ throw on 4th down in the last game. I want to see him like feeling good. He should be healthy now. He played a great game, one of his best games since the last Super Bowl in the conference championship.
Aside from the Super Bowl, the conference championship game was the best game I'd ever seen play. Yeah,
he's just been great, and so I want to see that. And then they're gonna make you do it. They're gonna make you. Andy's gonna make you, and Spags is gonna make you throw over the top. He's gonna fill the box, but Saquon can still beat a filled box.
Whoa,
I love it. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch the game. I feel good. I feel like things are gonna hum. Mahomes is gonna do what Mahomes is gonna do, but I want to get out, and I want Nick being aggressive. You're playing Patrick Mahomes. Do not be like, okay, we can give him the ball at the 8 and maybe he will stop. It's like, don't, dude. It's Mahomes. Nope. You're playing against a Terminator. You have to kill him. You have to see him dead.
Don't let this game be Eagles are leading by 4 with 6 minutes left. Yeah. Don't do that to me.
Please.
Don't do that to me.
Because they will dog walk us down the end of the field.
Oh, they'll laugh the entire time.
Just like it's going to be, how is this drive taking 5 minutes and 55 seconds? And they've it's been the smoothest thing of all time. I just don't need it. You just got to keep going. You got to go and you got to go. You got to go.
Will Shipley plus 6,000 for first touchdown scorer?
That's
probably
fine.
Not.
Is Kenny playing? I haven't seen.
He is not out of concussion protocol yet, but he was lifting the other day, and I was at the opening night last night, media night. Kenny Gainwell was there, but was not allowed to talk because he is not out of concussion protocol.
Sure.
So, and by the way, as far as Jalen throwing earlier, they call a lot of pass plays early, but he
checks out of it.
He eats it a lot. So throw the ball. Let's go, buddy.
And no sacks. If Jalen takes no sacks, I'll give birth.
Yeah.
I'll give birth after the Super Bowl.
You give birth?
I will give birth. I will feel so happy that I give birth.
New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code RTRS. That is code RTRS for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Got to be 21. See show notes for details. Yeah. So, are we ready to move on to KJ Martin, or do you want to?
Well, let's just talk for a second about what this means for them keeping Yabusele. The fact that they saved $4 million in this trade, in this Quentin Grimes trade. They have more to do to get out of to be able to use the full taxpayer mid-level.
They got to
non-taxpayer for mid-level for next year.
They got to get 11 million down by July 1st. That is because it's not for this year, it's for next year. So the way the tax works is they got to be under the tax when the new league year starts.
Yeah.
So they got to be there by July 1st.
And so part of that is whether they're going to trade KJ Martin now, and it seems like they're going to trade him to another team. Sixers Adam is reporting that there likely is not going to be another player coming back in return. So it would just be someone eating him. Then they would have to waive him after the season anyway. So it's now or later. That is something that would happen before being able to pay Yabusele for next season. But yeah, Kyle Neubeck reported they plan on keeping Gershon past the deadline, barring a mega offer. If they move Drummond would have to be part of it. That doesn't come back next year. He's got a team option. But basically this all boils down to like they have decided that they want to keep Yabusele. I think that they will. I think that he's been good enough with that you sort of have to. MOC, I was just on the phone with Mike O'Connor of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez.
Whoa, how'd you get his number?
I got his number from CJ.
Okay.
And he made the point, he's like, they've been looking for a guy that can competently play the 4 with Embiid and the 5 without Embiid since Ersan Ilyasova.
Yeah.
And he just started naming guys.
Kelly Olynyk.
Kelly Olynyk we've been looking for. Like he named Jonah. They tried to make Jonah Bolden that. They tried to make Mike Muscala that. Like there's been plenty of guys that they're like, could this maybe work? I was asking for like some Twin Towers stuff just to be like, can somebody do something? Is there anyone that can have enough size to hang and rebound the goddamn basketball? Like the fact that Yabusele has become this guy, bring him over from France for the minimum, and he's turned into the best story of the year and one of the best reclamation projects in modern basketball history is crazy. Like he's been awesome, and you just can't move him. So I thought it would be too hard to move the stuff that they had to move. It's looking like that's now easier to do. They may have to move a couple picks to do it here and there, and probably going to with Drummond unless they move him for the next 2 days. But to me, Yabusele being a part of this team, like Maxey, Grimes, Paul George, Oubre, Embiid as a starting lineup next year. And I think Oubre stays, whether it's a he just picks up his option or they decline the option and try to sign him to a long-term deal as well. Then you add, that's the starting 5. Then you add Yabusele and McCain and maybe Justin Edwards on the whatever the Ricky Council deal he got. Although the way Justin Edwards has been playing, maybe he deserves more than that. So that could get interesting. But like that's a really good balanced, like plenty of shooting, plenty of defense, athleticism, youth. It just makes a lot of sense, and I think Yabusele is a real like fulcrum of that. Being able to, he just does everything you fucking want him to do, man. Like he is
everything
crazy good.
He's gotten better from the beginning of the season till now. He's better now than he was when he got here.
100%. He was tentative earlier in the season. He was like, what am I allowed to do? I'm back in the NBA. Like, how much better have I gotten? Like, I don't want to fuck up. I don't want to miss my opportunity. He runs the floor. He hustles for rebounds. He plays multiple positions. He sets the tone physically. He paid to be here because he had to pay his buyout overseas. Just does every single thing you want in a role player in a basketball court. And as miserable as some team maybe, like the possibility of them going like, oh, we can trade 37 in Yabusele for like the 16th pick. That I like entertain that for a little bit, but it's like, dude, you have Yabusele in the team. He's great. You need him. Like it really becomes, don't be stupid. Don't let this guy walk out the door. Do whatever it takes to keep him. So I've sort of come around on that being like the most important thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's been the best is a weird thing to say, but if you include consistency, it's one of the things, availability, all of the things that you want from Gershon Yabusele, I think he's been the best player on the Sixers this year, like all things considered, and to your point, or maybe it was my point, he's gotten better as the
that was your point to my earlier point.
To my earlier point, he's gotten better as the year has gone on. Like it was clear early in the year that he was confident shooting the 3, which was great. We were like, oh my God, he'll shoot it. Yeah. But his confidence finishing around the rim, his ability to get offensive rebounds, his he's a smart player. He's a good passer.
Yeah. Made a huge defensive play at the end of this game, sliding his feet.
I just actually think he's he'll be a better player next year than he is this year, and he can play 4 next to Embiid. That's that him starting next to Embiid. That's what I want to see. I want to see him starting at the 4 with a natural guard next to Maxey, whether it's a point guard or a 2 guard, and Paul George in there. I'm happy with that. Right? That's 5 guys that can shoot 3-pointers.
Yeah,
So,
I could see Oubre or Yabusele.
Oubre
It depends on who's the backup if Bona's there. I think Yabusele, the 4-5 of Yabusele
Drummond, by the way, is another guy that could go at the deadline. I think because it's $5 million, and if you replace it with a minimum, that's $2 million, and it helps you get toward the tax. By the way,
yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. They have to get out from under Drummond.
KJ Martin, Drummond, yeah.
So the KJ trade is we'll talk more about Yabusele as we talk about the Mavs game, but KJ is a $7.9 million contract. They're basically going to trade him to some team that is under the tax that can absorb $7.9 million. And so those teams, if you look around, it probably is going to be one of Toronto, Utah, Washington, Orlando, Detroit. The question is, are they going to have to attach a pick to get the other team to take KJ Martin? And the answer,
by the way,
the answer is probably yes. And
now they'll get a pick back, or I guess a minimum player. I guess
don't
they
have to
get
get
a minimum
anything.
player back.
They could get a fake second round pick back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't trade something for nothing, so you have to get something back.
Yeah,
but
a
it could
top
be
59 protected second round pick and 21.75. But I think they're probably going to have to do it. And that bums me out because I think KJ Martin is a good player who played good basketball this year. And I wish that the situation was we could just hold on to him. Or I wish the situation was somebody would go like, oh, this guy is still young, crazy athletic, has turned into a really good passer and has a good basketball IQ. And that combination of like high IQ plus passing plus defense and athleticism is relatively rare in a player that age. And I do think he's going to be an NBA player for a while. But it's a question of leverage. And the Sixers need to get off the KJ contract.
And everybody knows it.
And everybody knows it. And so nobody is dying to take KJ. So I'm resigning myself that they're going to have to attach a pick. If it's pick 37, if it's the pick they got in the Caleb Martin trade, I will lose my mind. I will be so upset. It will undo everything. Just let me be in this fucking draft for God's sakes. But if it's like a future second, which they have a couple from the Harden trade in a draft that they're also in, then I think, okay, fine. I'll be bummed about it. The KJ contract they signed this offseason was like, oh, we'll give him 2 years, $16 million, and it'll be a tradable size contract. And then the year has gone so badly that they have to trade it away. They have to give it away. They have to pay to give it away. And that's a bummer. And so they're doing that to avoid the tax, which I do understand in a year like this. This is not the year to pay the tax.
Celebrating saving
hang on. I think if you have enough money to buy the Washington fucking Commanders, you should not care about paying the luxury tax.
Okay.
But since they do, these loser billionaire fucks who I dislike with every fiber of my being, this is not the year I'm going to duck them for avoiding the tax. If they're going to... And then the repeater tax that they're like, if they resets the clock on the repeater tax, which becomes more restrictive money wise, but it's just money. It's all money. It's all money.
Just to be clear, the tax is not like the second apron. There's no rules.
It's just money.
And KJ Martin, just to be clear to everybody, because I don't want to mislead anybody.
Yeah.
The KJ Martin thing has nothing to do with Yabusele because next year's KJ Martin deal is unguaranteed. So
right. Well, they'd have to waive him this coming.
Yes.
This offseason anyway. Yeah.
Yes, but to be clear, like they could not trade KJ Martin and they could not give up a pick to get off of KJ Martin and still duck the tax for next year, which would affect Yabusele.
Agree. I will roast billionaires for being cheap. And I think it is bullshit that they care about it. They're buying multiple sports teams. Like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
But if you're stipulating we do care about the tax, we do not want to go into it multiple years in a row because we're going to save it for years that matter. This can't be a year you're like, no, I'm going all in and I'm not going to do it next year. So
I think
I don't agree with those stipulations, but if they have to do it,
being soft on them this
year.
I
hate them. I think they're losers, and I think they should rot in hell for what they've done to this society. But as far as under their rules that they've established, which is we care about the tax, this is not the year I'm like, no, they should go all in this year. Like it's obviously not.
All right. The Rights of Ricky Sanchez podcast.
You want me to tell him the rotten hell? I'll tell him the rotten hell, Spike. You're,
No,
you're
you
goading
don't-
me to do it.
Whoa, hell is an extreme thing, buddy. You know, the Rights of Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Adam Ksebe, the official realtor of the process. We got this amazing email. I am a mortgage loan officer, not with Mortgage CS, a frowny face, based out of the DC suburbs. My dad is from.
Oh, he unplugged his microphone. He has to do a little reset, and that happens to me all the time, and it's so nice to see it happen to him. What a successful night it is for me. Adam Ksebe not paying extra for this spot. The unplugged spot. No, you got to maybe a little reload. Maybe a little reload there, pal. Up. Try it.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
You got me.
Got you. We're back.
Okay, there we go. I changed BC inputs for some reason. All right, there we go.
CJ was
All right.
grinning this whole time too.
What were you saying that time? I didn't hear anything you were saying.
Doesn't matter.
Was he shitting on me, CJ?
No, it's because it always happens to me. I unplug the mic all the time, and it was nice to see it happen to someone else.
Well, yes. Well, I'm not on my setup. All right. I got this email. I'm a mortgage loan officer, not with Mortgage CS, based out of the DC suburbs. My dad is from the Philly area. So despite living in Maryland, DC, and Virginia my whole life, I've been cursed as being a Philadelphia fan for 37 years. Last week, I received an urgent call from a referral partner saying they had clients that were closing on a house in Bethany Beach and were running into issues. He asked if I knew anybody that could help. I told him, unfortunately, I don't have any personal collections, but I knew exactly who to call. Just as the advertisements promised, Adam picked up my call after just one ring. I explained my situation to him, how clients didn't even know they were in trouble and needed to get help to get the deal done. Adam knew exactly who to call and told me he'd call me back in 10 minutes. 11 minutes later, so Ksebe did lie, but 11 minutes later, I called my referral partner with good news. And now these home buyers are on their way to becoming Bethany Beach homeowners. Adam was awesome, had no dog in the fight, stood to make $0 from this deal, and still dropped what he was doing to help. If 37 years of Sixers fandom brings me nothing except this occurrence, I'd say it was worth it. That is Ksebe, the official realtor of the process. You want to get a home in the Delaware beaches? Kasebe's the guy. Bethany, check. Lewis, check. Rehoboth, check. Dewey, check. His team is based out of Long and Foster in Bethany Beach. They cover every square inch of Delaware, not just the beaches, every square inch of Delaware, every square inch of Maryland. And he is your guy, 302-864-8643. That is the number that guy called, 302-864-8643. You can call it or text it, or Adam at processrealtor.com. And if you want to buy or sell a home not in Delaware or Maryland, maybe PA, maybe Jersey, maybe New York, maybe California, I don't know, call Adam. He can't buy or sell it for you, but what he can do is he's got a big Rolodex of realtors. He can find the right one for you and be your connection. So he's the only realtor you need. Once again, Adam's number, 302-864-8643, or Adam at processrealtor.com. All right.
One more deadline thing.
Yes.
Because we're sort of in the mix of like what's going to happen. If they can trade Drummond, you trade Drummond to anyone that would take him. If they'll take him for free, you take him for free. You're going to eventually probably have to attach a pick to Drummond to get off him this summer if you have to do it to sign Yabusele. I would really love. Eric Gordon has been excellent. I would love to trade Eric Gordon. I would love to maximize signing a veteran, vetman Eric Gordon, who has been white hot lately. And now you get Quentin Grimes, who is not as good of a shooter, but a way better defensive player, way better all-around player at this point in his career. I'm dying for Eric Gordon to go to Orlando, dude. They have the 29th ranked offense. They are last in the league in three-point shooting. Their best three-point shooter. No one on their team that is, Mo Wagner out for the year, shooting 36%. Everybody else is under like 34%. They have nobody. They need Eric Gordon, and I would love for him to go to Orlando because I root for my Magic. If you can trade Gordon and Drummond to Orlando for Gary Harris, who has a team option for next year that you can decline, and the 42nd pick in the draft, and you have 37 and 42 next year, I'm feeling great. That's my like dream trade, is to help Orlando get off of both Gordon and Drummond and then get the 42nd pick, which would be a really nice bit of business. And so you'll see. We'll see what else happens. There's Paul George rumors that we should probably at least like allude to.
Yes. I alluded to them in the intro.
I don't think that they should trade Paul George for expirings and a pick. I don't think that. To be clear,
the rumor came from Keith Pompey, and he said
there's a bunch of different ones out there floating.
The first one was Pompey, and that was Warriors and Hawks. Warriors, not surprising at all, given that they pursued Paul George before. They are in a urgent situation.
Yeah.
Given the age of Steph Curry and Draymond Green.
Yeah.
So I just don't know how you're building it all. Like if they were going into next year saying we want to build a championship contender around Joel Embiid, I don't know how you're doing that any better if you're dumping Paul George. That's the sense that I get, unless you think you're trading for Kevin Durant or something.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like a Durant for Paul George or a Jimmy for Paul George, then like we can entertain the pros and cons of that. I might still come down on the side of like I would like the next 3 years of Paul George. I think his game is gonna age like perfectly fine if he's healthy. He's got a pinky injury. He's being a little bun right now, but unfortunately, that is keeping him out.
Can I note we got a note from a hand surgeon.
Oh boy.
Well, so I went back and forth with him, calling him bullshit, right? Because they keep saying that Paul George is day to day. And he's like, I'm telling you, I saw it. Here's what it is. So he says he thinks Paul George has what is called mallet finger. And
I've heard of this before.
So mallet finger is when some of the tendon pulls away from the bone, I guess, in a finger. But the problem with mallet finger is, so the way that you treat it is, it's not
sounds
that
medieval.
Serious. It does, because it's mallet. It's not that serious, quote unquote. But the way that you treat it is to put a splint on it, and the splint has to stay on 24/7 for 6 to 8 weeks. Now, I thought he was bullshit until I saw that Paul George does have the splint on the finger, and when he practiced, they said he had the splint. The problem is, if you take the splint off, your finger can do this thing called droopy finger or something, where the tip of the finger
they could do a better job naming that.
Yeah, well, falls down like this and never comes back up.
Man.
So if you don't heal it the right way, it is fucked forever. So he believes that Paul George has mallet finger, and if he doesn't, now he says he can play with the splint on, but the splint cannot come off for 6 weeks.
That's
just
really
putting it out there.
That's really hard to like have touch with a splint on.
Well, now
like around the rim.
It's his non-shooting hand.
Boy, still uses it to.
Yes. Now, I think the thing is, here's my message to the Sixers. If you keep saying he's day to day with a pinky, he looks like a fucking pussy, man. You got to help the guy and say he has mallet finger.
Yeah.
It sounds so much better than day to day with a pinky that makes me want to kill him.
I don't disagree with that. But the idea of like going, there's a lot of people that are saying like, they got to get out from under this Paul George contract. Oh my God, this Paul George contract, they got to get from under it. And I just like, I so disagree with that. He has not shot it as well as he normally does this season, but his defense has been exceptional when he's played. And we just haven't seen it like coalesce with Embiid not being healthy enough at the time. Like, you sign a guy this offseason, it's the biggest free agent signing the Sixers have had in decades. He like, and it just like blows my mind to be like so quickly go from we have to sign this guy. They signed this guy to a max contract to like, we got to trade him for like expirings and a pick. And it's just, we can't do this again, dude. I'm not saying that the Horford, we talked about this a few weeks ago. I'm not saying that the Horford contract was like right or anything, or that they should have held on to him for a while, but like, you can't do we sign a guy to a big contract and then we trade him for scraps and then watch them succeed somewhere else. Paul George is the exact kind of player they are going to need. McCain makes that even more vital because now McCain can do a lot more of the like get to the paint, get to the rim stuff that Paul George doesn't love to do anymore as an offensive player that's aging and losing some athleticism. But PG is like a very, very like still the, I don't know, 26th best player in the league. That's still one of the best two-way players that can stretch the floor. Like, the contract is what it is. You're going to want him here. We're going to try to be replacing Paul George for years. It's the same exact thing that we just talked about with Yabusele. Like, we've been looking for a Paul George type for a while. If we trade him now because this is a season from hell and so many people have been dying on the bench all season, then you're just going to be like, man, I wish we have somebody that was like exactly the skill set of Paul George. And so I feel trading him to the Warriors for like spare parts and like a late first round pick, I'm just absolutely not into that. His game is going to age well, and you could do that in a season or 2 seasons if you want. And to me, it's like not worth that pick to do it. And you watch Joel come back tonight, and he has a 30-point triple-double. Like, the best path.
Well, that is to torture us. I mean,
I understand. Like the best path forward is still to like the only like hope path forward is still hope that they get healthy. Like, hope that they get healthy and stay healthy for the right stretch. I'm sort of going all over the place because there's so much to say, and you're tired from it being late on your end.
I'm good.
It's like I'm in my fucking zone. CJ's falling asleep at the wheel. I'm driving, baby. I got all night.
It's only 11 o'clock where I am.
I'm lit up. Yeah. It's more field goal, but like free throw in like a video game where like the thing goes back and forth.
Yes,
like
and you got to get it right in the middle.
And you got to get it in the window. Yeah. Like, it feels like for a decade, the Sixers, when you hit that, was hitting of like, if this is like everybody's healthy at the same time, this is like January, damn, fuck, November. Like, we really need that to be April, May. And one time in the next 4 years, it has to happen. It just fucking has to. Otherwise, I don't believe in God or the universe at all. And so I need it to hit, and that's the best path towards succeeding, is just finally that window happening over the right period of time. Embiid, after the game, Sixers Adam reported that it was another extremely difficult month, and he had to like take solace in the good things about his life. And the quote was, "It just keeps happening." And like, it's just a miserable experience what he's had to go through injury-wise and all the bad luck he's had. And you just got to hope that he gives enough of a shit, which I believe he does, that at a certain point, luck is going to be on our side. And you now have Maxey, McCain, Grimes, Yabusele, Paul George, Joel Embiid. This is not the time to like tear it down and start over. It just isn't. Like, it just isn't. The hope is, as Maxey improves, as Yabusele gets more comfortable, as McCain comes back, this is in the future years, obviously, and gets more comfortable, they can survive more without Joel. They can win more games without him there.
We just keep doing the same podcast every
No,
year.
they don't. But we keep hitting on guys. Yabusele's a huge hit. Jared McCain's a huge hit. Tyrese Maxey has taken another leap mid-season. He had like
every year
16, 25 plus points per game games in a row and like shooting incredible percentages. Like, I love tearing it down. Guys, I love tearing it down. But this is just not the time to do it. You got to see this
might
thing
as well
through.
give it another year. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm ready to do it for at least a couple more, but yeah.
I'm just fucking.
No, I understand. I understand that I keep going back and forth on this thing. I'm ready. I'm willing to go down with the ship, which is not like buy this season, but it is don't like you've hit on enough other things, which is again, Maxey, McCain, Yabusele now, and Paul George deciding to come here. Like, that's enough really good things. And if you believe in Nick Nurse as a coach, which I could go either way on, but like he's won a title before and people still believe in him around the league. That's like, you just got to get Joel healthy. And then that's a championship level team. And so I just really I want it for Joel. I want it for us, but it's not the time to like the first sight of, I was trying to do a metaphor on and post this earlier, but like, it's like you finally buy a nice pair of pants and then you spill like scalding coffee all over your shirt and you're like, I got to get off of these pants. And it's like, well, no, the pants aren't the problem. You spilled coffee all over the shirt.
Is this a
Paul And I didn't believe in it enough to post it. And I don't believe in it now enough to say it, but I sort of got ahead of steam and I went for it. Yeah. But to me, Paul George has not been the problem this year. And they did still want him this offseason, and they're going to want him for years to come as he keeps playing, if he keeps playing at this level, which there's no reason to think he hasn't unless the mallet finger grows to his brain.
Droopy finger.
Droopy
mallet
finger.
Hashtag mallet finger. Hashtag droopy finger. All right. So here's what we have left after I talk about Big Barker. We have the game, but we have to talk about the Luka trade.
Yeah. Let's do the game first.
We're the last ones. We have to talk about it. All right.
Yeah, we may as well end the pod with that.
Yes. The rights to Ricky Sanchez, because I have some nuanced opinions on the Luka trade, which most people do not, it doesn't seem like, but I've got a few opinions on. All right. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. I got to be honest with you. I miss my wife, but I really miss my dogs not being at home. I haven't been at home until Sunday. I really miss my wife. If there's two reallys, it might be for the dogs. I don't know, whatever. And the dogs right now are sleeping on Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds because I love my dogs. Do you love your dogs? That's the real question. Do you love your dogs enough to get them a real bed? Not just a fake bed, not a bed that looks like a pillow. You wouldn't want to sleep on a pillow. Maybe you don't want to watch TV on a pillow, but if you slept on a pillow every night, your back would hurt. That is the same with those shitty dog beds you see in pet stores. They look fluffy. They look good. Oh my God, they look so good in the picture. They're not supporting your dog's joints. That is the difference with Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Designed, engineered by experts to support your dog joints so your dog stays healthier for longer. Your dog, just like you, as they get older, develop arthritis as they age. And for bigger dogs that are 50 pounds, over 80% of them will develop arthritis as they age. What is a fix for this? Well, a good diet, exercise, and sleeping on a proper bed. That's what Big Barker is. Go to bigbarker.com, search for patches, put them in your cart, use the code FREEPATCHES. You get 2 Process Pup patches, a black and white one, a red, white, and blue one, some stickers as well. You take a picture of your dog on the bed, send us. We throw them on the Instagram, official Process Pup. But even better, this dog will now have a healthier, happier life. If it's an older dog, it'll help it bring it back to its best. Maybe get rid of some of those bad symptoms of arthritis, which was proven in a study by Penn Vet. Or if it's a younger dog, keep that dog healthier for longer. Rebel is 11 years old, will be 11 in April. Just took him for his checkup. 0 signs of any of that, of arthritis. Still takes long walks, still very athletic. I think Big Barker is a part of that, definitely. Once again, bigbarker.com, promo code FREEPATCHES, a 10-year warranty. The foam won't flatten or they'll replace it for free. A 1-year at-home trial. If you don't like it, they'll give you a full refund. They'll even pay for the shipping. Handmade in the USA. Big Barker Dog Beds. Okay, so just to be clear, I think this is the first time I've ever done this. Did not see the game tonight. I could not see the game. I had other things to do. I did watch a 10-minute highlight thing. It did look very exciting. It was very cool to see that Joel Embiid had a triple-double and Maxey played well and Justin Edwards had 16. But I only saw the highlights. I will watch the game, I promise. But as of now, Mike is the game expert, not me. Now, Mike is usually the game expert, but usually I have some takes. I don't have a lot of takes, so what I'm going to do is ask Mike questions as he says things.
I mean, it was great to see Embiid back, man. It was great to see him. I mean, like,
first 3 buckets, right?
Yeah, a bunch of triple doubles in return. Won't play tomorrow. Fine. It's always weird seeing him like work back in after a long layoff. Like, they want to give the touches he wants. He's trying to ease his way into the game. And yeah, he got hot in the first. Hits a turnaround on the baseline over Gafford. Then drove past Gafford, finished with a tough left, and took a hard fall. And then a pull up from the nail and one on Gafford. Just like really, like, he always seems to burn Dan Gafford, who is a nice player and tries his ass off. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was an interesting Joel game. He got a little pass happy, trying to like show his teammates like, hey, like, it's not going to be all about me. Like, I'm here, but we're all doing this together. Because the team did really get like they have started to gel over the last few weeks without him. And so I think he was feeling that and wanted to be a part of that rather than like, okay, now we're playing Embiid ball again. But a bunch of nice passes. I mean, finished with 10 assists, found Kelly from the nail underneath for a layup, and just like a ton of easy buckets for Yabusele on a high-low. Just like over and over again, which we'll talk about when we get to Yabusele. But yeah, missed free throws were kind of weird. 4 of 9 from the line is very odd. including a big one at the end that put the game in question. But
Yeah.
and some classic lazy Joel bullshit passes that did piss me off. He misses a bunny off a gorgeous Kelly Oubre pass. That was annoying. I didn't like the I don't know if you saw this in the highlights, but there's a time when there was a long offensive rebound and Joel got mad at Kelly Oubre for not going after it. And it did look like Kelly could go after it, but Joel also had just like missed and did not find him, and Kelly was wide open, and so maybe Kelly was a little pouty in that moment. But screaming at Kelly for not going after no board,
I didn't see that at all.
It was a bad look for Joel, especially after like, you just
bro,
you just
you
got
played
here,
14
man.
games this
Yeah,
year. Yeah,
don't
Kelly
you can't do
Oubre's
that.
there every night, bro.
And then the next play, Joel gets called for a charge. So it was a real like, we're pissing this away a little bit moment, but obviously rallied back. Really good to see some classic Maxey Joel 2-man game. The Joel through the legs to Maxey for a 3 was sick. And then Maxey did it back to Joel on a drive where he drove left past Gafford. They were really working well together towards the end. I thought he navigated double teams pretty well, sometimes finding teammates, sometimes muscling through him for an easy look. He had a dunk. It was a light dunk, but it was a dunk. I appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, they win a game that Joel plays in. That's a good night. He did get hit in the face one time, which is a concern for the Bell's palsy, which you do forget about sometimes. Yeah. Amid all the other injuries, you do forget about the Bell's palsy. I don't know if you saw, there was a sweet moment where at halftime Arthur ran on the court, who was getting bigger by the moment, and Joel holds him over his head to dunk during halftime, which I thought was very sweet. But ultimately, Joel 29, 11, and 10 on 23 shots. They said he'd play with 30 minutes. He played 36. He looked all right. He looked better in a return game back than he has in most return games back after a layoff like this.
The yelling at Oubre thing, now I didn't see that in the highlights. It kind of bums me out, man.
It wasn't like during a timeout like he berated him or anything.
Yeah.
It was like the ball bounced, and it did look like, at least from the regular camera angle, that Kelly could have gotten it, and instead a Mavs player got it instead. And so Joel kind of like did like a like waved like one of these kinds of things. But I was like, I do agree that it was a bad look, and I felt that in the moment. And then Joel got a frustration charge on the next play, and at that moment it did feel like we were pissing the game away. But they bounced back. Yeah, I mean, Maxey's great. Maxey's incredible. Like 33 and 13. His sixth straight game of 30 points. He played 40 minutes. Nick Nurse playing the shit out of him. It was good to see him, like, he's finding his rhythm back with Joel. A little sloppy with the ball a couple times. Like, the guys are not in the same exact positions they were when it was just Maxey and shooters, everybody spreading the floor. But, like, dog, some, like, gorgeous finishes around the rim. Up and under, finger roll. There was a time earlier in the season when Maxey got a step on somebody and the defense was about to close in, you were like, he's going to miss this layup. Like, you almost were upset when he got a step on someone because his momentum was taking him too fast and he wasn't finishing well around the rim. And now every time he gets by somebody, he is finding a way to finish. A tough one with the left after contact from Gafford. He's taking bumps better. There's just a lot more balance and patience to his game, like, consistently. If I put myself in a position of like being an opposing fan watching Maxey, he's the kind of guy where anytime there's an open look, you're already, as the other fan of the other team, like hanging your head and being like, he's wide open. He's making that shot. God damn it. And I feel like he's just really in a great rhythm. Obviously the truly filthy step backs that he has been knocking down, making some defenders look very silly. Yeah, I think he's doing a good job taking contact, getting foul calls, but not like seeking it out so much that it's like disrupting the rest of his game. And if you remember this season, I've been like, Maxey's not really involving his teammates in like fast break moments. He sort of just takes it himself.
Even if it was 3-on-1, it was basically 1-on-1.
Yeah, or 2-on-0, and he's like, I'm taking it. And it's really like for a guy that's such a high usage player, you want to give it to like give it to these guys. Don't get to score as much as you, so like give them the opportunity to do it, and plus you get an assist and you feel good and you look like a good guy. He hasn't been doing that, but in this one, Maxey gets a steal off a Reggie Jackson deflection, hit ahead to Justin Edwards. He could have taken himself, instead hit ahead to Justin Edwards for a fast break dunk. So I like to see that. And I think it's important to note this game, a season high in assists for them as a team, 37.
Well,
blowing
22 from Maxey and Embiid alone, right?
23, yeah.
23. Yeah.
That's great. Like they have been. It happened before Joel got back, but as a team, they are really starting to share the ball a lot better. You can see them moving better as a team, getting used to each other, and so much of it, like, look, you're going to get a random win if you get like guys out of the blue playing with each other, but so much of the NBA is just everybody's good. Everybody's really good, and it's about like being locked in and cohesive and communicative as a team and knowing where your guys are going to be and just gelling and establishing chemistry. And even as the record is still pretty bad, they have been doing a better job of that over the last month. And I give Maxey a lot of credit for setting the tone. And yeah, he's been awesome. He's been awesome. 33, 13, and 4. Some great defensive plays as always. Made Kyrie make some tough shots, which obviously he's capable of doing. But this is the best stretch of Maxey's career after a really tough start to the season.
Yeah, really, really tough start. Almost so much so that I had written off an advancement from Maxey this season. And Justin Edwards, by the way, looked like he had a great game, hit a big three in the corner as well. And there weren't in the highlights, there weren't a lot of Yabusele highlights, but another impressive looking line.
Yeah.
him.
So Yabusele, I would say I didn't count it felt like all of his baskets were on duck-ins. Just cutting into the paint, bodying the fuck out of a skinnier dude, and finishing strong at the rim. Really good job by his teammates. A lot of it was Joel, but good job by his teammates getting the ball to him. Him and Maxey still had a nice 2-man game. They've really established a lot of chemistry together. I will note Yabusele only attempted 1 3 in this game. I think that's notable. I'm interested to see. Obviously it's one game. It's just one game. But if we're thinking about him as at the 4 for any long length of time with Joel, he's going to have to continue to shoot contested threes and get that shot off quick. And I think he's going to be covered instead of being covered by Dan Gafford, who is trying to protect the rim and come out on him, or whoever, Porzingis, who's also protecting the rim. He's now going to be covered by a 4 that can move with him a lot more and has less rim protection responsibilities. So I think that might limit some of his volume from 3. It's just something to watch for, of how realistic is it that he plays serious minutes at the 4 with Joel. But it's one game, so just something I'm watching for. But I thought, he played great, moved the ball well. He's awesome. I love him.
And by the way, it also depends on who specifically he's playing with, because I always felt like whoever was playing the 4 got those corner threes. I mean, how many did PJ Tucker? Yeah. He was there for a lot of them. He passed on a lot of them, but he was there for a lot of them. I don't know. Yeah, it's something to watch for, but I'm optimistic there.
Yeah, I think there's no reason not to, because he's there's no hole in Yabusele's game that he's not willing to work at and try to plug.
Right.
He just commits to doing whatever the team needs. And he's gotten better at everything as the course of the season. There was times when it was okay, I take layups and dunks and I take wide open threes when no one's within 10 feet of me. And obviously the time from how shot ready he was has come down a lot, and he's willing to get that off quicker. And also he gets into the paint and he has those little mid ranges that he hit a floater the other night, has nice touch on those, had another dunk tonight. He's just fucking awesome. And yeah, you mentioned Justin Edwards. This is his first time really playing major minutes with Joel. And he seemed to enjoy it. He got a ton of good catch and shoots off Embiid passes. He's so ready to play. He had 9 threes tonight. He's an undrafted 2-way guy who played 38 minutes. He had 9 threes. He's awesome. He's a plus 23, led the team. He's just so ready to pull. That is a huge thing. He shoots it high and ready to pull, and the shot is going in with more confidence. He's so ready that when he's open and the ball doesn't come to him, you can tell he's but I'm supposed to shoot this.
Right.
That's my job, and I can't shoot it if you don't give it to me. And it's crazy how young he is and how disappointing he was at Kentucky, really, which happens to a lot of Kentucky guys because they recruit so many high-level freshmen, under Cal at least at the time. And he's really adapted his game, and he still has some of that, like, I can get into the mid-range. Kyrie closed out on him, and then he attacked the closeout, had a nice little bump in Kyrie into a floater, because that's what he did in high school, was just like bully smaller guys. And now he's playing with NBA body size, so it's not going to happen as much, but he can still do it. And his defense was great. Huge transition block to save the game on a Najee Mark. Did they show that in the highlights? The block in transition?
Yes.
A crazy block. Could have been called for a foul, but like, you got to make the effort, and he made the effort. I thought he was good job contesting all game, sliding his feet when guys went ISO on him. I thought he was just excellent, and I'm so excited. They have to sign him. It might be weird if like his agent's going to play hardball and not accept the Ricky Council contract. Essentially, that's going to be tricky. But his two-way contract, like the amount of games he's played, because there's like a certain, when you're on a two-way, you can only play 50 games?
So many games for the NBA team.
And they've almost used that up. And so the idea is for them to up him to a standard contract after the deadline. But right now, he is playing too good for that. He is. So his agent could go, fuck you. You have to give him a lot more. Or maybe they only get him for like 2 years at the minimum. And then there's like a player option or something to opt out of that, because he wants to play the rest of the season with a team. And if he doesn't do that, then they could, I guess bury him as a two-way. I don't know how exactly it would work, but that'd be a bummer. He deserves to play on this team, and he deserves to get a contract and hopefully be here for a long time.
You want to talk about the Luka trade? So
really quickly, I gotta give Ricky Council credit, man.
Okay.
Ricky had 8 assists in that Boston game.
Yeah,
that Boston game that they went up 26.
Yeah.
The fans were never confident at that game.
Rightly so. They shouldn't have been.
They were never like, we got this, we were being cocky. There's never a moment that they were like euphoric in the sense of, we're winning this. Fuck you, Boston. What a win this is. They never were. They always knew that, like, we're going to lose this fucking game. But Ricky was excellent in that game. The game does seem to be moving slower for him as he's like taking on more responsibility as a driver, as a grab and go guy. A ton of great passes in Boston when he'd normally have like charges called against him. One of the first plays for him tonight was he finished with really nice touch with his left at the rim. Did you know that Ricky Council last year shot 40% from the corners on threes, and this year coming into tonight, he's shooting 52% on corner threes?
It seems like he makes way too many of them.
I know.
I like
the ball goes in so weird. The ball goes in so weird. He hit another three.
Never confident
tonight.
0%
No, but
of the time. Yeah.
But he's doing. I mean, he had another great driving pass on the move. Found Adem Bona in the dunker spot, who finished it nicely. It was a good finish for Bona. In the replay, it was actually a no-look pass, which I'm just like, Ricky. I mean, it's really B-ball Paul. The B-ball Paul spirit is alive and well in Ricky Council.
He's wing B-ball.
And he is feeling the passing gene that Kelly Oubre started to feel, which I like. Defensively, he's still so scattered. His body positioning is wrong. He bites on everything. His decision-making and like concentration and communication is not sound, but I love him. And I have a tough time imagining a world where he's playing major minutes on like a high-level playoff team, but I would also feel a little bit stupid trading him when he is so good at such weird specific things.
Trade him? What do they trade him for?
I mean, he's interesting, dude. He's an interesting player.
He's
Guys with elite skills that are shooting 52% from the corners with that level of athleticism on that contract, which is very cheap.
They're not getting anything for Ricky Council. Stop.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not saying they could get like anything like of huge value, but if some like bad team might go like, oh, that's an interesting piece that I would take a look at. Like, there's no reason to think like Talen Horton-Tucker was a player that's like kind of weird from a couple. He's still playing on the Bulls, but like there was a time on his rookie deal that he was interesting that people were like, oh, this guy could be something. I'm not saying he's going to be, but he's interesting and he's young and he's athletic and he's shooting 52% on corner threes. There's something there.
Okay. Should we talk about the Luka thing now?
There was one moment in the game when Kelly Oubre knocked in a knocked in a basket for the other team because he went up with a one-arm rebound and they banged it in. And it's like, Kelly, go up with two hands, my guy. It looks cool doing it. It looks cool when he does it, but you got to go up with two hands. Otherwise, you can't give them baskets. All right? I love Kelly. All right, Luka trade.
Luka trade. You first or me first? Up to you.
You go for it.
Okay, so I've been thinking about this for a while, and I know you mentioned Mavs Moneyball earlier. I know Kirk pretty well, and they are going through it, and I feel bad for Mavs fans. And so here's where I landed on it. I respect the idea of if they believe in Dallas, this guy's never going to get his body right. He's been out for most of this season because of a calf thing, because he's not in shape, so on and so forth. He's wildly talented, obviously top 2-3 talented player in the league, got him to the finals last year. We do not believe this is ever going to be right.
Last year.
I know. Just let me finish.
But even the words, we do not believe this is ever going to be right, got him to the finals last year.
I know, but played only 7 more games than Joel Embiid this year. Just to be clear. And in the finals last year, got cooked because he couldn't move. So, but just let me say, if the organization believes we don't want to give this guy a supermax because we don't believe this is going the right way, I respect the balls on the GM to decide that. I respect on the organization to make that decision. And you need only look at players like John Wall, maybe even Iverson at his peak, even our current guy, Embiid. And if you said you made a decision at a certain right point that we believe this is never going to work, I respect that. However, if you're going to make that deal, it's got to be an obnoxiously huge home run. And this deal is obviously not an obnoxiously huge home run.
Yeah.
The Mavericks could still be very good this year. You know, Anthony Davis is a great player, but it's going to get him fired, the Mavericks GM. He's probably going to get JJ Redick fired because he doesn't want, there's no way Luka wants fucking JJ yelling at him at his fat ass every fucking timeout.
Former teammates, JJ and Luka.
Oh, great. It's going to get Nico, what's the last name?
Harrison.
Nico Harrison fired. It is the quotes from the press conference, though I respect the honesty about, hey, I'm not going to be here in 10 years anyway. I respect the honesty.
Hey, when I called Rob Pelinka, he laughed and said, "Are you serious?"
Yeah. And last thing, and then on to you. To see the details, I think it was from Kirk Goldsberry, that originally the deal had more first-round picks and Austin Reeves. And then Rob Pelinka, who no one looks at as some fucking deal master, talks you off of it and goes, actually, Luka is sort of a risk. And you just get one first-round pick. It's just like, I respect the gumption to say this ain't it, but it is such a failure in the return that I can't defend it. I would love to defend it, but I can't.
No, it's impossible to defend. I also, if you think that Luka's not going to be the guy, I wouldn't decide that a year after he dragged your half decent team to the finals. But if you decide that hey, going forward he's not going to be it, I think Mark Cuban not being the owner anymore, the main owner, is a massive part of it. And I think if the shitty Adelsons or right? Isn't it them? Yeah. Are getting skittish about not paying him the supermax because it's so much money. That's ridiculous. They're billionaires. They should. It's the same thing as I said before about paying the tax. You should pay it and grow up.
You cut a break, but okay, but
No, I'm just saying.
6 is a break.
We're not doing that. I would never give them a break. I would never give them a break.
Give them a break. But
pay it. Sell the fucking Washington Commanders if you're not going to pay the goddamn tax. Grow up. But the priority system is so out of whack. Of okay, well, first things first. We decide we want to trade Luka. Okay, great. First things first. Has to be a secret. Number one, important. Must be secret. It's that's not it. The trade. The first priority must be get the best fucking return.
Yes. by the way, he said, like, the owner, he completed the trade before the owner even fucking signed off on it.
That's wild, dude.
So like, let's forget about the owner saying, I don't want to pay him a supermax. It doesn't even seem like a money deal.
Yeah.
Because if you want to be cheap about the team, what you do is you pay him the supermax and cheap out everywhere else.
Sure.
You know? So anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, things must have just been bad, and they must not have. I don't think Luka realized how close it was to ending, but like they must have just gotten tired of his bullshit and decided. Like, did you see that video of Michael Finley after getting them to a conference finals last year? Luka is having a single Zach Lowe beer in the tunnel, celebrating outside the locker room, and Luka hugs somebody, and Michael Finley comes around the other side and takes the beer away from him, like he's not allowed to have it, like he's a teenager who's in the cutoff.
No, but that seems like a guy who might have a beer problem, by the way.
Sure, but don't do that right after. Don't do that then.
Okay.
You can't do that then. Watch it. Here it is. CJ's got it up. It's
yes, I saw this.
This is a crazy moment to do. And he looks at him like that. Like, he doesn't even say anything. He just takes it. Like, you're treating him like a kid, dude. And there was a quote in that Ramona Shelburne story where he said they get rid of everyone I like. And this is just like, people get on Daryl for being too accommodating to stars, but like the alternative is this, I guess. And now Luka goes to the place where they are like the most idealistic in stars.
Have a son, because they will draft him.
Yeah, for sure.
Have a son.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an insane trade. I think the idea that like you want to build your team out of in 2025 out of like Kyrie and AD is like that's the best thing to do. Like, we think this helps us win a championship both now and in the future is insane. You traded the younger player. AD is not. Everyone said this. You've already heard this in other podcasts. But like, AD is not like the pinnacle of health. AD has played fewer games in the last few years than Joel Embiid. And it's just like, it's just such a wrong thing. Like, if I was a Mavs fan, who I do feel bad for, although fuck Dallas for football, the moments that I feel, hang on, like, no, you don't have to do this. Like, firing Hinkie, just like such a self-inflicted wound of just like, firing Hinkie was that moment for us. So like, you just don't, just like, take it back. Of giving Tobias that contract, please take it back. You don't need to do it. I mean, it feels like waking up as a Mavs fan yesterday must have been like just waking up and be like, we just fucking elected the dumbest motherfucker in the world. Like, and he's the president of the team. Like, he's doing, like, it just sucks. It sucks for them. It sucks for Mavs fans. It sucks for, but I think the lesson is, obviously every executive or every scout or every player like is smart in some way, but they can all do dumb shit. They can be very dumb.
Well, this guy's out of his fucking league. I mean, it's clear he's out of his league. But everyone's giving him so much credit for like building such a good team that got to the finals around Luka. Well, he did a good job last year, but he got fucking whipped on this one.
Yeah, it's insane. And he was roasted for the like Steph Curry Under Armour Nike.
Well, I mean, that
deal.
story, Ethan broke that story, but if you haven't seen it, it was in the book, right? It was in Ethan Strauss's book about the Warriors, is that when he was with Nike, they did a presentation for Steph Curry. They wrote Seth in the presentation, and they showed him the presentation for Kevin Durant. Yeah, and that's when Steph Curry decided to go to Under Armour.
Yeah, usually people get fired for big mistakes like that.
Right.
But he's running the Mavericks.
Right.
And yeah, apparently he did some nice things on the margins last year.
He did.
Drafting Derek Lively is nice, but like Derek Lively is not going to be as good of a player without Luka Doncic throwing him lobs. He's not going to be as good.
It's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if maybe, I don't know what the like getting into Nico Harrison's head and like motivations are, but like at the end of the day, unless Luka has unless Luka was like gambling on games and he's going to be like kicked out of the league for 2 years or something like that, there's just this is an indefensible trade, and it's crazy. It's wild. And stuff like this just happens for the Lakers. Like, to get a call from the Dallas Mavericks saying like, hey, do you want Luka? Yes, like that doesn't happen to other teams. and it
Can you
just happens
imagine
to the
Rob
Lakers.
Pelinka was like,
Yeah, there was a lot of gifs and TV show clips of imagining what his reaction was. But yeah, it's crazy, and I like that. I was intrigued by the De'Aaron Fox Zach LaVine trade as well. I like Fox going to San Antonio.
The total rundown on that was, hold on, I had it on here. Oh, there it is. Spurs get De'Aaron Fox, Jordan McLaughlin. Kings get Zach LaVine, City Sissoko.
Sissoko, yeah.
They get 3 first-round picks, a top 14 protected 25 pick from Charlotte, the 27 pick from San Antonio is probably not going to be very good, the 2031 pick from Minnesota, and then 3 seconds.
It's a good trade piece.
And then the Bulls get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and they get their own 2025 first round pick back.
And traded a second round pick. The Bulls are the worst front office in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean they're not great. But what's it called? Zach LaVine had like negative value last year. So.
Because you held on to him for so long.
Right.
Like they didn't. I mean, that's what they're doing with like Vucevic too. It's like the same thing. That DeRozan even like they just consistently make the wrong decision. It's crazy that Karnišovas still has a job.
I can't figure out De'Aaron Fox. I have moments where I think he's great. I have moments where he looks pretty regular. So yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I think he's a really easy guy to root for. I think having someone with him and Maxey are probably the 2 fastest players in the league with the ball in their hands. Maybe Amin Thompson. But he plays his ass off. It's going to be fun to see him and Wemby have some like 2-man game. Chris Paul gets to move to the bench and be like still useful there, unless they trade him. I don't think they would, but it's fun to see San Antonio go for it. It's fun to see them not like just wait and assume it's going to happen organically. I want San Antonio to make the play-in. I would love to see that. They got interesting players, but I also like what this means for Sacramento. It's a bummer for Fox, but they kind of get to reorient themselves. Like they're just a team centered around Fox, DeRozan, Sabonis, and all of their shooting issues just was never going to make any sense.
It's not going to make any sense. It's not going to do anything now. It's the
combination of like shooting issues and lack of defense. Like that's it's hard to do in the NBA, in modern NBA, to get 3 like cornerstone pieces who all don't really shoot and all don't really defend very well. That's hard. That's hard. Yeah. That's hard to do. And so Zach LaVine, who's still a really, really good offensive player and a really, really good off-ball shooter, makes a lot more sense. Him and Malik Monk are going to fire a shit ton of threes. Keegan Murray as well. And then you kind of just allow DeRozan and Sabonis to be the like fulcrum of the offense and let them handle and pass and distribute and go from there. Defense is still going to be tough for them, although Keon Ellis is a really good defender and Devin Carter as a rookie is going to take a step forward, and Trey Lyles has been playing good ball. But I'm interested to see if they can.
Bro, you gotta let CJ go to bed.
No,
it's only 11:30. Where you're talking about the Kings.
No, I'm excited about the Kings.
We've been doing the podcast for an hour and 23 minutes.
That's nothing. We've done way more than this.
A play-in.
We did like a marathon 5-hour podcast in COVID. This is way better than that. Something happened in this one at least.
The COVID podcasts were 100 times better.
No, they weren't. They were miserable. But the last thing I would just say, like, that team playing the Kings, escaping the play and being the 7th seed, and maybe at least winning a couple games against either Houston or Memphis. I think that's certainly possible. I'm excited to see them in a playoff series. I think they could be interesting, and they've won some games since they fired Mike Brown. Doug Christie, maybe a good coach. Who knows? I'm excited. I like basketball. I like the trade deadline. I like rumors.
It's 12:36 Eastern time. Our baby boy has to go to bed.
CJ doesn't sleep. CJ goes outside. He has a thermos. He has a thermos, and he looks at the moon and smells nature.
All right.
That's all he needs.
We will now. I will be flying on Thursday night. If there's another trade beyond the KJ Martin trade, you don't have to do an emergency podcast if they trade KJ Martin for a 2nd-round pick. Up to you.
I think they're going to trade KJ Martin with a 2nd-round pick.
With the 2nd-round pick for a heavily protected 2nd-round pick.
Yeah.
But aside from that, if something big happens, there will be another pod this week. Otherwise, we will talk to you this weekend. Super Bowl Sunday? Is that what
No,
we're doing?
I'm me and AU doing a podcast Thursday after the deadline.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But if there's not any other trade, I was going to say you don't have to. You're more than
doing it.
willing.
I'm getting on AU, and we're going to talk about the thing we've been beating around the bush argument wise for now weeks and months.
Oh,
We
the
need to
tank
have it
thing?
out. If there's going to be trades, there's going to be NBA stuff to talk about. I'm excited to talk about.
Well, boy, set up AU to listen to you talk about the Kings for an hour.
He'll be happy to talk about the Kings.
You don't watch the Kings.
He knows ball.
All right. So Thursday night, you guys will be there? Thursday afternoon-ish?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, and then we'll talk to you this weekend. Are you done with TTP?
Yeah. You know, like face.